Good afternoon, everybody. Christian here. Today I have something to share with you. This is more of an update on a previous prophetic word. It's got some new things in it that I'm going to be sharing with you, things that I didn't see before that the Lord has revealed to me now that I want to share with you. But it's not really necessarily new prophetic word. I'll just kind of give you more insight on something I've already spoken with. Before I do that, I got a few announcements to make. I've been requested multiple times by multiple people asking me to give them some other way to donate to this ministry, that they can support this ministry. You can always give online at our website at christianprophetic.com. Safe, secure, and you can give from multiple different countries, meaning from different currencies, etc. That's always going to be there. There's also the ability at the end of this video, there's an address you can mail a gift or a letter to this ministry via that way. Somebody did that this week from Hawaii, one of our friends, and I got to tell you, they sent me some pictures and they're just gorgeous. Like I said before, my wife and I were huge fans of Hawaii. One of these days we're going to go there. I also have a fear of sharks, large ones that can eat me. I think that's a natural fear. But this thing is so pretty, I think I would get in that water. And yeah, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. I showed it to my wife, my son. We all enjoyed them. Where was I going? Somebody asked me to create a Cash App, Cash App exists, and they wanted me to have an account there so they could use Cash App to send money to the ministry. And I thought, okay, it's not going to kill me to do that. So I've created a unique ID for that, provided in the video here. So you can send money via Cash App now to Christian Prophetic, and that will work as well. Okay, just a little update for you. Now, moving on to what this video is really about. Back on February the 6th of this year, 2020, I uploaded a video entitled Giants Will Fall. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it here. In that video, there's a prophetic word, the Lord speaking about you taking your promised land and how you have tried multiple times and you have failed multiple times because they have been able to defend this land that God has promised to you. So every time you run out there, you see them show up, you have learned to flee because you know they're going to defend it. But in this particular dream, the Lord was showing that this time He wants you to go out and fight them because their defenses have been spent. And so in that situation, we are encouraged to go back after the land that God had spoke to us, right? And this can be different for different people. Obviously, there's the corporate vision, and then there's also the individual vision, right? So in this particular case, I knew that God was telling me that something that He had already spoken to me about would, in my own life, manifest and be capable for me to go out and take this land that God had spoken to me. But I didn't know which detail, which one of the words that God had spoken to me would be the thing that would manifest. So we just wait and see. When God gives you a dream or a vision, etc., there are oftentimes elements in them that don't make a lot of sense to you. You only understand so much. And sometimes you go to the Lord and you say, Lord, what does this mean? And He will give you the interpretation. And other times He'll interpret parts of it to you. And then you'll know, these are the parts I'm supposed to know now, but in the future, God will reveal new things to me. Well, in that dream that I shared with you back in February the 6th, I knew that there were certain parts that were odd, and these are usually the keys to unlocking it. And in this dream, the parts that I could share with you, I did, but there were other parts that were just odd that I didn't have the interpretation for yet, but I knew, trusting the Lord, He would give me understanding in His time. And a couple of those elements were things like, one, in this dream, I see a giant, I jump up and I strike him with a sword, and it's on the left side of his head. It's an odd detail to me. Why do I strike him on the left side of his head? It's from the back to the front. You would think if you were going to go and design this attack, you would think that you're going to jump up and chop his head off, right? That would make sense all the way through. But that's not what happened. In the dream, I strike him on the left side. It's a very odd detail, and I didn't know what it meant. Is the Lord showing me that my aim is off, that I've somehow missed an opportunity, I don't get as good a shot as I could have got? What are you showing me here? And I just didn't know the answer at the time. I know now. So I just put that on the back burner as the Lord will reveal that to me when He wants to. Also, when I struck him, I went through half of his head on the left side from back to front, and he doesn't fall. That's an odd detail as well. You would think, I mean, if you hit me with the sword on the side of the head, I would probably fall. So then in the dream, I turn my back on the giant as though I'm believing he's going to fall. I'm trusting this is dealt with. I'm not going to worry about him anymore. And I face two other giants. This is an interesting detail in and of itself. And I noticed, I don't think I mentioned it in the dream back then, but I noticed in this dream, all the giants look alike. They're all like twins or triplets, you know, because there's 3 giants in total that I could see. And I thought that was an interesting detail, but I didn't understand the meaning of that at the time either. Also, when I first go to strike the giant, he's slow in his response, which was odd as well. What are you signaling there? Why was that detail there? Just that, from what I could gather, that was the Lord was giving us this battle, right? He was allowing us to succeed. So, in any event, let me update you to what I know now. When I uploaded that video talking about giants will fall, that was on February the 6th. The stock market itself had not yet peaked. It would come a few days later. So a few days later, the market peaks and it starts to fall. And I'm still uncertain when it first starts to fall, is this what I'm looking for? And then it falls a little more, and I'm like, okay, I believe that this is probably the giant that God's talking to me about, because it's something He has told me about before the stock market crashed and so forth and so on, and it's something He spoke to me about a long time ago that I have not seen come to pass yet. And it makes a lot of sense, because every time I think it's going to happen, I go out there to look for this sell-off, and the market gets defended, and the bulls win. So it would line up with what I have been seeing in the dream and what I've experienced in my own life and things like that. So I thought, okay, I'll go ahead and take a short position on this sell-off, and I chose, I could have chose anything, but I chose to short the Dow via the DIA, I believe it was. And I did that through short-term put options. And not important, just basically that's the method that I used. So I took my short position there, and it sold off, and I made good money on that, and I compounded my way down. But after it started to fall for a while, I left the average, shorting the average itself, because the average, of course, is an average made up of multiple different companies. Some of those companies are strong, some of those companies are weak, and you want to kind of focus on companies that you believe are going to be very weak in this situation, not companies that are going to be weak and strong. And especially with ETFs designed to track, certain averages. Your averages are weighted averages in many cases. So really strong companies have a greater weighting in these averages, and so it'll kind of be an inefficient way for you to short the markets. So a more efficient way would be to focus on individual companies. So after I had made that initial trade in the Dow, I then turned my back on that and focused instead on a couple of individual companies that I know that are going to fall in the future. The Lord had shown me them in the past, many years ago. And so I turned my attention to them. And that's where I'm basically at now. So the first thing I noticed when I turned my attention to those other 2 companies, and I started looking through various different companies to find an opportunity, the first thing I noticed was all the charts looked the same, because everybody was selling off because of the coronavirus off of the previous high and selling straight down kind of thing. They all looked identical. And in that moment, I understood why in the dream the 3 giants all looked the same. And so later, the market started to bounce. And I heard people talking about, I think it was like 2 weeks ago maybe, they were saying something about a head and shoulders pattern. And I thought, well, I should go look and see in my long-term charts, do I see a head and shoulders pattern, which is a technical term. It's just basically I don't know if you can see this from there, but there's a first shoulder, a head that's higher than the first shoulder, and then it sells off, and then there's a secondary bounce that forms the other shoulder. And then after that shoulder peaks, it rolls over, goes lower, and comes down and tests this neckline that we draw off the lows here. And then from that point, it closes below there, and you measure the distance from the high to the neckline and subtract that number from the neckline. It's a complicated little technical analysis trick, but basically there is in fact a head and shoulders pattern forming on the down, which is interesting to me because, well, it's the actual index that I was shorting, right? I don't see the same pattern on the NASDAQ, but you might see like a double top on the NASDAQ, something like that. But anyway, on the Dow, in fact, you are seeing that head and shoulders pattern. And then I noticed something else was interesting. It also meant that where I had actually entered, where I had first struck on this opportunity, was on this side of the head, right? So on the left side of the head is where I first entered the short position. Not at the very top of the head, not at the very bottom where the neckline is, but about halfway through, right there. I just took a swing at him, and that's where I got him. And in fact, that's exactly what ended up happening in this thing. It's just a detail the Lord is revealing to me here, showing that in fact the non-falling of the giant initially and all that stuff, these things are all, the Lord knows what's going to happen. He's showing me now to be calm, be controlled, know what He's shown me, because this is not a time for me to go out there and try to buy up companies and say, okay, I'm going to buy them, they're going to go higher from here. He's warning me this is a head and shoulders top, and this is going to fall. I've turned my attention away from it now and focused on other companies, but I'm focused on them, expecting them to go even lower. When this thing does roll over, you will have a massive drop that will be confirming what the Lord has shown me before anyway. So you'll have a massive sell-off forming the second, or the exterior side of, or the outer side of the left shoulder on down to the neckline, and then from the neckline, the total drop there will give you as well. So you have this massive, just sheer drop off a cliff right there. Basically, I'm just sharing with you some updates the Lord gave me. This is not investment advice in any way, shape, or form. I'm just telling you this is the things that the Lord is showing me, and you do with them whatever you will. Obviously, I'm going to do what I'm going to do as well. And I'm deliberately not telling you the individual companies that I am focused on, because I don't want people following me in there. If you trade it wrong and you lose money, I don't want you saying, hey, Christian, you told me to go buy this or go sell this, and I'm not doing that. I'm just telling you, as a prophet, God shows me something, I feel obligated to share that with you. And so that's what I've done, okay?